Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to my first ever throwback review. Yes, I promised in the collab video that I posted just recently that I would be doing a review of the first A Quiet Place. As you can see on the screen right here, I had just finished watching, and this is all in preparation, of course, for A Quiet Place Part 2, which is coming out for me tomorrow, and for a lot of you also tomorrow. I wanted to do a review on it because it's been a long time since I've seen this film. The last time that I remember seeing it in full was back in the theater, back in 2018 when the film came out. Um, and um, I can say I'm 20 years old, so I haven't had a lot of theater experience. Been loving movies for many years, um, but of the theater experiences that I've had, this is definitely one of the best ones that I had. The atmosphere in the room was the auditorium itself was tense, and just everyone felt involved in the movie, and I really like those experiences a lot. Like if you ate your popcorn or anything, or if you try to move anything, you try to reach into your pockets, anybody can hear it, and I thought it was just very, very inviting and very, very exciting to walk into such experience. So revisiting this 3 years later, I was very worried that now being out of said experience, that the film would not live up to such measures from that theatrical experience. And I have to say that the film still holds up. There are some stuff that I do now will recognize as not as great as I originally thought, but I still really enjoy this movie. Conceptually, I still think the film works very well, and that was the big appeal for me and for a lot of people, was the premise, which is it's about a family of four, and the Abbott family, as they're called, I believe, and John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, and two kids, one daughter, one boy. I'm not going to, well, actually this is 3 years old, so I could spoil it. If you've not seen The First Quiet Place, go watch it, but I'm going to spoil some stuff here, so just bear warning. But they had lost they had a third child with another boy, and unfortunately that little boy had gotten himself killed, because the thing about this world is that you cannot make loud sounds. There are certain sounds you can make, like very, very light sounds that are extremely soft to the ear, that you really can't pick it up. Anything that is apparent, something that is loud, like if I put my phone, like something loud like that, will trigger monsters to come directly to that source, directly to where it is, and attack and kill you. And unfortunately, this little kid had a rocket toy that he had found at a store while the family was out and about. There were batteries in it, and he pressed the on button, and you can figure out what happened next. And throughout the film, it is about this family grieving. It's about them grieving the loss of that kid, and ultimately how they work within this world. How do they operate every single day? You see that they leave like little sand trails. You see that they have this light system indicating with the colors whether it's a danger zone or if it's all clear. There's like bonfires that are out on each that they have on top of their like farm rooftop, whatever it's called. And you see that other places have those bonfires as well, indicating that there are survivors. And then towards the end, they light that fire, and no other bonfires were lit because these monsters had unfortunately had gotten to them. So it really, really puts you in that circumstance, and I really think that's one of the strengths of the film, is how John Krasinski, because this is, in my opinion, the greatest strength to A Quiet Place, is that John Krasinski's helm to the craft. I think that his helm to not only the camera work, I think the camera work is very good in this movie. A lot of nice wides and interesting camera angles on certain characters. I also really liked his commitment to the world. I was involved. I was invested, and I thought the world was very, very interesting. And a lot of the ways they incorporated certain elements, I also thought worked very well and were believable. Like I said, the way that they use sand as their way of getting through walking around, how the river is much louder and thus they can speak a little bit more normally, how how they deal with certain circumstances. Like, for example, Emily Blunt's character is pregnant in the film, and of course, with that, a baby is going to make a lot of noise, and they have to figure out how to deal with it. And the way that they find their way of dealing with it, which is going further underground, is a very reasonable um, uh, answer to use and tool to use within the film to explaining how they handle this. Um, which leads me talking about Emily Blunt. She is great in this movie, like very, very good. Everyone talks about the bathtub scene. She is great, not just in that scene, but just in general in the film. The kids are also very, very strong. I really admired the effort by the kids. I will say that the weak link of the film is John Krasinski performance-wise. I don't think he was terrible, nor do I think he was like absolutely great. I thought he was fine. But the other three really brought their A game. And I will say that it did have resonance. That was the other thing that I found interesting about the film, is that it is entertaining. It is a very entertaining film. As a horror film, it is very, very entertaining. The way that they utilize the premise, the way that they move about, like when the creatures show up and how they utilize the creatures, and the tension that brews. Because what I really admire about A Quiet Place is that they find the perfect balance between suspense and using jump scares. Because there's a difference between you having a jump scare and then having suspense. A jump scare is literally just happens. But with a suspense, you are brewing, you're building it up, and A Quiet Place finds that balance in bringing both those into the film and not destroying one of them. They are both equally utilized well in the film, and I thought that was a really good strength to the film. But more importantly, one of the things that I have found, and everyone has said to be the greatest strength of the film, I do believe the greatest strength of the film is John Krasinski, but with that also, John Krasinski as a director, but the greatest strength of the film also is the sound design. This is a film all about sound. This is a film all about the attention to certain sound details. So the sound designers brought their A game. Every single sound that you would imagine that these characters are producing, whether it's like clothes movements, the way that they grab certain items, their leaning, their backwards movements, their breathing, all that stuff is done through the sound design, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful sound design for the film, and I believe it went on to get an Academy Award nomination for that, and rightfully so. Like I said, I think John Krasinski was probably the weak link performance-wise, in my particular opinion, and I do think that it is a little short. I do think that the film could have been a little bit longer. It is under 2 hours. I think that a solid 2 hours probably would have done the film better, because it kind of goes at a quick pace, not really quick, but like kind of fast pace, where like when I finally realized it, we were already to the part where Emily Blunt was getting pregnant, giving birth. I was just like, wow, we're already halfway through the film. But those faults or those issues do not negate how really entertaining the film is. And also, I was going to bring up one more thing that I really liked about the film. I was surprised by the resonance of the film. I was surprised by the emotional response that I got from the film. I didn't cry or anything, but I found myself really attached to these characters and really attached to their circumstance. And again, I think that is due to mostly the performances and also John Krasinski's helm to the craft. And I really am curious to see what they do in part 2 with these characters and how they where they progress, and ultimately, now that they have the ability to stop the monsters with the earpiece that the young girl character has, it's going to be interesting to see how this progresses in part 2, and because now that they know how to fight the monsters, it's going to be very interesting how they end up meeting Cillian Murphy's character and all this stuff, and what this ends up doing for the world of A Quiet Place at large, because now they're moving out of the house and now moving towards other places. So it's going to be interesting to see the progression in part 2. So overall, I still enjoy A Quiet Place a lot. I still think that it's highly entertaining. I think that like I said, the sound design, John's commitment to the craft, in terms of directing, Emily Blunt's really solid work here, and the kids itself, all amount to a very solid experience and a very solid horror, and also the dramatic heft that the film does balance out, and it works and complements the horror elements very well. It doesn't feel like it's just there just to be there. It has a reason to be there, and with that, I still enjoy this film. It is the showings of a director who is still progressing. I will say that also. It doesn't feel like a grounded filmmaking achievement, so I hope that part 2 feels more like that for John Krasinski. But beyond those flaws, though, I still think this is highly entertaining and resonant, and I think that you'll still enjoy this, even if if you're like me, if you haven't seen it since your theater experience. Trust me, it's still effective at home, and I think that you'll still have a good time with it.